everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Jen, this is James, this is Fundie Fridays, and today we are joined by very special guests, Jordan and McKay, your favorite apostates. You tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin.
I'm McKay.
And I'm Jordan.
And we are married. We are not siblings.
Do you get
Let's
the hell
start
out?
with that.
Yes. We both grew up Mormon. I was born in the Mormon church. You were born kind of in the Mormon church. I was Mormon all the way up until 25. And then, I served a full-time mission as a missionary. No bike, but knocking doors, all the same.
Oh, I'm going to ask you all about that.
Okay. I'll let Jordan do her little spiel.
Yeah, that's basically it. We'd spent the majority of our life in the Mormon church, dedicated time, talents, effort, everything we had, and then realized it was all a lie, and now we're here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to meet you guys.
Y'all architects do love some parallel lines. That's all I will say.
Oh my
Like,
God.
just say.
They make big money over there.
What?
Yeah.
What
Have
an
you seen-
angular approach to building.
Well, and it totally they redesigned, they had like the CTR rings, they redesigned them, and it's basically just like 3 vertical lines kind of representing the steeples on the, it's so fucking like minimalistic cringe. I hate it.
I'm just imagining, honestly, I just had a moment in my head of you being, oh God, a Mormon architect being told he has to design a ring.
Oh,
He can't make
shit.
it has to be a circle.
Right,
It can't be a straight line. What do I do
God.
now?
All right.
Someone
well,
pulled it off in Provo. They're getting that one to fuck off though, because it's round. So
Yeah, it's round and ugly. So
Well, I didn't know that y'all had some kick-ass beautiful seashell building in my state. So there we go.
not our version of Mormonism.
I was gonna say it was
but-
stolen by the
it's the
offshoot.
better version of Mormonism that's not like misogynist and
Please
outright.
do tell.
Yeah, this is why I gotta listen more. This sounds interesting.
Oh yeah, that's the they used to go by, or they're colloquially known as the Reorganized Latter-day Saint Church, but officially known as the Community of Christ. And their temple is built adjacent to the lot that the mainstream LDS church is supposed to build the temple when Jesus
comes
returns.
back, right?
So
That's so petty.
literally right across the street.
Ain't no pettiness like religious
So,
pettiness.
okay,
I've learned
so-
anything.
In my FLDS video, I was talking about how the Mormon church doesn't want to be called Mormon church anymore. Is that what that's referencing to? Was I wrong? Or is it specifically
Honestly-
a splinter group?
I don't know if it's so much that as Rusty got his panties in a wad because the previous prophet liked the term, so he's got to
Yeah.
be original and not like it.
Well, yeah,
so.
the current prophet has been on this train for like over 2
It's
decades.
true.
But every time he would bring it up as, oh, I'm an apostle, I'm kind of on the same level as all you guys, the president would always just squash it. Like,
So
I
now
love
he's
this.
having his moment.
yeah,
His time to
he's
shine is
finally
here.
come into his own, and he's like, it's my fucking regime. We're doing what I tell everybody.
Okay, what do you call him? The prophet or the president, or is that 2 different people?
It's the same
It's the same.
Okay,
yeah.
so
prophet president.
okay. He's sealed to 2 women, right?
Correct. One living, one dead.
Because
Yep.
women can't be sealed to multiple, but it's the other way around. You can have like unlimited.
Yes. Unlimited wifery.
Unlimited wifery, so long as only one is living as per US law. So
Yeah. Which we all know how that goes. So
That was the most morbid thing I've heard in a while.
I unironically love Mormons. I just find it so fascinating because it's like I'm such in the world of evangelicals, and they are like their big enemy is Catholicism. And they always think that they're going to take over and all this stuff. And I'm just like, while you guys weren't paying attention, the Mormons literally got their own state. Like, you guys were
well, you
focusing on
guys
the
were
wrong
screwed
thing.
over here.
Like, imagine if like New York was only Catholic or something. Like, it would just that was this
It's
possible.
totally true.
Seriously.
Yes.
Joseph
Yeah.
put his faith in land development.
Real talk.
And violence.
Also that.
yes.
I will say, like, and the thing is, we have a reasonably sized Mormon population here in Missouri, and I'm very quick to tell everyone I've ever met, I've never ever in my life had a bad interaction. I've just never had a bad interaction with any of them. I remember very distinctly back when I was doing community mental health. Yeah, Jordan, by the way, social work, we're going to get there, definitely. I remember very distinctly, I had a client that I took to the food bank to volunteer for kind of career readiness stuff. And there were 2 Mormon missionaries that would come and do their thing on certain days. And I was always super happy to see them because when they were there, shit went so much smoother. They were so good at leading their little stations and getting all the old lady church groups on board with one plan. And when I saw those two little short sleeve black ties, I was like, today gonna be good. We gonna get this stuff done.
We're getting it done.
They
Shoulder
work
to the wheel.
hard, man. They put in their time. So I just always feel the need to say that because I have to, credit where credit's due. Every person I've ever met from the faith has been nice, whether they're in now or out. So
Yes, they're
good people.
that's why we always try to differentiate between, hey, they can be good people and everything. There's nothing wrong with the general population of Mormondom, but it's the leadership. And when they're, like sustaining leadership and everything like that, it does kind of extend a bad look. But
well, and traditionally, the people who climb the ranks of power in an organization like that, generally aren't the most ethical ones. You don't get to become the prophet if you're not stepping on a few necks on the way up.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's why I struggle with any type of bureaucratic religion. And bless y'all hearts, it seems like the most bureaucratic system of faith I've ever seen.
We call it the corporation because that's truly what it is.
Mhm.
Seriously,
It's a business and they run it as such.
But they're so happy I even wrote in my notes, I said, it's strange to tie your immortal soul to rescheduling the church's gardener for Thursday. Yes, I know I helped out the church, so fundamentally it's a good spiritual act, but still you mandated it, and that's really weird.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
So I was over here doing a little side project on the computer
I'm a talker,
because James keeps saying Garden of Eden is in Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not technically true.
Where they were kicked out of the Garden of Eden.
Yeah. According to Mormon founder and prophet Joseph Smith, the Garden of Eden was in Jackson County, Missouri, which is where Kansas City is. After the fall, Adam traveled east of Eden to what is now Davies County, to the spot Mormons call
Adam on Dion.
There we go.
Adam on Diamond.
The church now owns over 3,000 acres here, rolling farmland across the Grand River, and it looks like it's like in the country. It's not like
it's nothing.
Nothing there.
See, I thought
There's like
for
a
a second
plaque.
there, I would buy it if Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden and were punished by being sent to Missouri.
And I ain't never going back in there. It's Missouri in there. You ever been to Missouri?
I am not going to buy that they were here, that they wanted to stay here.
You know what? Maybe they should put a farm there or something. I don't know why.
They can't put a farm there. They're putting secret housing foundations and they're burying them.
Oh yeah, that's what my mom always told me. They would pour concrete for houses and then they would bury them so people wouldn't know what was happening.
Preparing for the return of Jesus.
Some weird things going on.
Mormon
They're very
folklore,
prepared.
man.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. You wasted the time and effort of probably 10 to 15 qualified individuals to pour concrete that you immediately buried.
And will inevitably totally just
Sit there
nullify
for-
that work because there's no way it's going to do well.
All
buried.
you've done is confuse an archaeologist at some point. That's
Yes.
your legacy.
More likely is that never happened.
Right.
Oh,
Or they're
man.
totally full of shit.
I want to believe.
Yeah, people just want to talk. I know it sucks. They also, when we didn't end up going there because when we made the trip out, we were followed by this snowstorm going while we drove out. And by the time we'd gotten there and stayed the night, the people at the other historical sites, they were like, oh, don't go there. It's just a mud pit of nothing. I was like, that's just everything
Okay.
I needed to know in one sentence. But at that time, they were like, oh, the prophet and apostles went out there and they excavated some things. And people say that it's the rocks that Adam sat on and taught his children.
How familiar are you with SpongeBob?
Very.
The episode where they're delivering the Krusty Krab pizza and he's just like, the pioneers, they used to ride these babies for miles. I'm like, I just think of Mormon pioneers every time.
Just a stupid boulder.
It's not just a boulder. It's a rock. A rock. A rock. It's a big, beautiful old rock. Oh, the pioneers used to ride these babies for miles.
Which we're totally joking. The pioneers, they went through a lot. they
For
went through
real.
some shit and it's not their fault.
Your
I know,
pioneers
it's the
did go through a
fucking
lot, and I
captains,
feel like
man.
my familial pioneers had a lot to do with the strife that your pioneers went through.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Have you made a video about the Mormon Extinction Order?
No, we haven't.
We haven't. We should.
That would be a
That's
fun collab with us.
Yeah.
Missourians formally apologizing on behalf.
Mormons would be so pleased. It's coming full circle.
I
The
know,
end of
right?
Got
time
one.
is nigh.
I'm a Missourian. I'll apologize for whatever you want. I'm sure we did it. Like, like I know what's wrong with our state. And I joke, you see, it's nice to talk to you all because it's rare that like I get to talk to someone with another state that's also like uniquely notorious and has its own
Infamous would be, I guess, the
yeah,
word.
like,
Nothing bad ever happens in Utah.
Look at these beautiful mountains.
we're just here to break land speed records and win football championships. Why are you so mad?
Only in college, though.
Oh, God, yeah. Don't come here if you like sports.
So in case me talking about the Garden of Eden wasn't obvious, I grew up on a lot of misconceptions. Also, my grandpa tried to explain Mormonism to me one time, and he was determined to tell me that Moroni was a snake. And I don't know why he thought that. And I was going to ask if you know where that came from. My grandpa also
Maybe
thinks
he
that
just-
thought that aliens built the pyramids, though. So it could have just been something he made up.
That comes from, it is actually a misconception that was
Hey.
almost canonized because Mark Hoffman, little like documentary kind of thing about him on Netflix that came out last year. He was I don't know, infamous, I guess is the word, forger.
Was
Yes,
Murder Amongst
like
the
a
Mormons
bomber.
or whatever. Is that what it was called?
Yep. So
Yeah.
not a snake, but a salamander.
Okay.
And so he forged some documents that looked like a letter of Joseph Smith describing Moroni as a white salamander rather than the official thing. And they bought it, honestly.
They
There
paid.
were, one of the current apostles, who it was a Utah Supreme Court justice,
Why not?
had apologetics ready to go for
Mm.
it, talking about, oh, well, angel in some is kind of like a
Angel,
an
salamander,
amphibian.
same
Yeah, I
thing.
know.
And
The
see,
rearrange the
Dude
letters.
totally bought it.
You
See,
know,
honestly, I just feel like one of y'all should go out and just hold up the picture of the thousand-eyed demon or the angel from the Bible and silently just walk away. Like, it's all weird. You don't get to say our salamander is strange when you're okay with that.
Exactly.
Seriously.
But anyway, I'm getting off topic. No, my first real interaction with, or my most engaged interaction with like Utah and Mormonism and all that was through college sports. I love football. I'm a big football fan. And so BYU is legendary. I did not know until today that Steve Young, Hall of Fame quarterback for the friggin' Niners, is Brigham Young's grandnephew or some shit. Like Steve Young, man.
Oh yeah,
And-
they tote him around.
I was about to say, but it was like celebrity status.
And
Oh, for sure.
well, and there was Zach Wilson a year ago. I happen to know, I don't know nothing about him as a Mormon, although I know he looks like one. Like I was like, man, I bet they're real happy
What do
he's
you mean
going
by
number
that?
2. Blonde, square jaw, perfect face. Like, and also like
It's
a
true.
friggin' howitzer of a right arm. Good Lord. I've watched
Oh,
that boy
yeah.
put some balls in the air. But I just was curious, like all of this came up because Liberty University has talked about how like a strong masculine football team is part of their outreach. It's part of their ministry. And I was like, it almost feels to me like BYU, I guess Utah or Mormonism in general has to be approaching it that way. And I also found out that the head coach of the other major program, Utah, is Mormon. Like, is there a special relationship that Mormon athletes have with the church? Is that like a special role? Can you comment on that? I don't know. That's what I know. And that's how I started even looking into it.
I feel like there's a big relationship there. Like you said, there's, if you're not Mormon, BYU is not on your radar unless you're an athlete. And then it's like, oh yeah, BYU, there's some talented players over there. But I think that's the main reason they've maintained BYU as it is and keep it on like the collegiate football level is because that's part of how they entice people to come to the university. Plus I feel like it's a conversion talking point for them. They're like, oh, you think BYU's got talented football players? Well, let me tell you what else they
They're
have.
playing for the Lord.
They're playing for the Lord.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it's really ironic. Just within the last year, there was somebody who was on Mormon Stories podcast, which is a pretty well-known, runs the gamut of Mormondom listeners. But there was a person who went on Mormon Stories podcast who was in the BYU
was
manager
in
or
the-
something like that.
I think she was working on her physical therapy degree.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was working with the football players all the time. And she was like, those players maybe are touted as being holy, even if they're not Mormons, but that is not the case. And she slept with or was in a relationship, a sexual relationship with one of the football players, and she got expelled and he didn't.
Shocking.
He runs a 4.42, so what can we do? Like,
I know, right?
like, you're really fast, though. And this kind of leads into another question, which is sort of related, because another kind of Mormon football thing is that you now have this dynasty of the Sewell brothers, if you've heard of the Pene, Nephi, and Noah Sewell, who are 3 Mormons from American Samoa. And Pene got drafted last year. Nephi got signed as an unrestricted free agent, and Noah's still in school, but he's projected to do really well. So I got looking into that. I did not realize that like a third of American Samoa is Mormon. I didn't know anything about that relationship. Can you tell me a little bit more about, because it seems like y'all have some, not y'all, but the church in general. If I say that, I'm real sorry. It's just how I'm talking to you,
That's
but
okay.
about them. Anyway, I know y'all aren't in anymore, but can you comment a little bit on that relationship? Because this was something I wasn't aware of, and it seems like the roots run real deep in like American Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, that area.
Yeah, there were huge missionary efforts really, really early on. And I think part of that comes from the belief that they are a remnant of the Nephite people who were exterminated at the end of the Book of Mormon. There's a lot of people who believe, because at one point in the narrative, some group of them like split off and apparently go into the waters of the West. So it's like really widely held that a lot of the like the Maori people and in Tonga and Samoa and everything like that are Nephites, basically. So I think that might have given way to those really, really hard missionary efforts really early on. I don't know. It's just been there for a long time. So
well, and it's funny just because, and I mentioned because of those 3 brothers. Jordan, I'm looking at your face whenever I bring up one of these football players, and I swear I feel like you have to have like a cousin who just tells you about it even though you don't care. Like,
No,
Jordan
I went
loves
to the
Utah
U. I
football.
was in
really?
The, yes.
Okay. I'm so
I
used to
hated
people
BYU.
not liking football.
No, I was at every game. I was in the front row. I was very obnoxious. I'm a huge Bronco fan. Like it runs deep for me.
it's funny because I'm the one who's not. I was only at my high school football games because that's when the band played. So
See, I heard how tall you were, and I assumed you were a backup on the football team somewhere. Like,
everybody.
But
Even my doctor growing up, he was always like, "Hey, are you gonna join the basketball team?" Or I was like, "Doing what, water boy? I don't know."
you think you want me on the basketball team until you see me out there. Then you'll tell me to get right back inside.
Yeah,
But
a gazelle with concrete shoes out there. Come on.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to doubt no one for their fandom, though. I'm just so excited. I'm a huge Raiders fan, but I'm in Chiefs country, so you and I are neutral. I'm okay with that. But no, I thought it was interesting just because like I love a lot of the draft junkie stuff too. And I read that, and I was reading some of like Pene in particular, the oldest brother is an offensive tackle. That dude is violent. Like his interviews, he was like, I enjoy dominating another man when he's across from me. I enjoy hurting people.
That's hot.
Like he was this, and he's like 6'6", 320 pounds. And I'm like, great representative of your church there. I'm suitably terrified.
Yeah, it's the same way at the University of Utah too, where I went. There's huge Asian American Pacific Islander representation on the football team. That's for sure.
So I'm so giddy. Sorry. that was really my first fucking introduction into the culture was through football. So their ministry idea is working. It made me ask questions.
We've seen the first 2 episodes of Under the Banner of Heaven. Have you been keeping up with it?
Yes, we are 1 episode behind.
Yeah,
Well,
we
I
haven't seen
the
this
most
week's
recent,
episode, but
My
2,
controversial opinion, I don't like it.
Tell me why.
I think that they over explain things. Like James will give an example when Andrew Garfield's character's talking to the Indigenous character, and he's like, I'm the only dark man here in a lily white town. And like it's like, hi, my name is John Mormon. Did you know that we believe in Joseph Smith?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just giving him a hard time, but I just felt that was very
like it's if you are not an absolute beginner, that show sounds downright patronizing. Like there are moments where it's like, is this person a Mormon?
Yeah.
Is this dead body a Mormon? Well, did you check for the garments? That's what Mormons wear.
Like, we wouldn't have
Thanks,
found his
guys.
body at the coffee shop.
You have established that. We are good. Like
The way that Alan, the way he's like, do you know who did this? And he's like, do you remember in our history? Like,
yeah.
bro can't answer a question straight to save his life. So I totally get that. A lot of people in the ex-Mormon circles that I follow, they're kind of in a different camp where they're like, they don't need to do it like this. I'm like, guys, they didn't make the fucking show for you. Obviously, if they were making it exclusively for ex-Mormons, it would have gone straight to YouTube for free. But they're trying to make and they wouldn't have gotten Andrew Garfield that's for damn sure.
He's playing a lot of like religious characters. I'm very interested.
Yeah, wasn't he in the?
He was Jim Baker.
He's Jim Baker.
Yeah,
and he does an incredible job, by the way. If you haven't seen
we need
it,
to watch that.
We haven't watched it yet. We need to. But they're really heavy on like even the dialogue. Like I feel like is like dripping with.
And I can totally see it because they do want to hit a wide audience.
They do.
So
yeah, if you have no idea what's going on, you kind of need it, but it's just the same reason why I was annoyed by the Tammy Faye movie. I know too much that it's like I can't enjoy it, but
I told Jen
I appreciate it.
It works it doesn't work as a Mormon thing at all, in my opinion, but objectively, it's one hell of a crime drama. I'm on the edge of my seat at the end of each episode. I'm like, I want to know who killed this person, and I don't know enough about this story, so unlike her, I don't have the ending spoiled for me yet.
So yeah.
I haven't read the book. I didn't read up on the case at all beforehand, so I'm going in blind. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, the Mormonism aspect of it does get
I read it in college, and I'm kind of disappointed as far as like comparison to the book, like up until now. But
should we read your scathing review of the book that she wrote when she was a true believing Mormon?
Oh my god, I wrote a Goodreads review in 2016 when I was reading the book.
This sounds like free content, man. Like
it was so cringe because I was under I was misinformed about what the book was about, and I thought it was about the FLDS, like most people do, right? And so then I read it, and John like shits all over Mormonism the entire book, right? And so I was like, wow, this is like terrible. And so I wrote a scathing review about this is a way to shit on Mormonism. It's not even about Mormonism, and it was cringe.
I have a lot of people in the true crime YouTube sphere. I don't really like any of that stuff, and like I found those parts of the book boring. I was like, I want to hear more about the fucking
the rituals.
Yeah.
Let me tell you though, as far as it's gone thus far, I've never been so disappointed to see boobs in a show. Immediately followed by Joseph Smith. Man, that was just
disappointing.
Do that to us, man.
This is a roller coaster of emotions for me, is how I feel.
Seriously.
I remember back at the beginning of this episode, I was going to mention, because I wanted to just say it's been remarkable watching your videos over the past few days and seeing the development from when you first started to now. And I mentioned watching your first video, the quote I wrote down was, Jordan looks like she can't believe she's talking about this stuff. McKay looks like he's trying to figure out how to build a time machine so he can personally kick Joseph Smith in the balls.
Oh my God, so accurate.
Like you looked very nervous, Jordan, and McKay, you just looked pissed. Like you were just ready to fight anybody in range.
Yeah.
Honestly.
After what they did to you.
And I've been there. I've been angry, man. I feel it.
Oh yeah. It is. I still honestly feel angry, and I don't feel like any sort of necessity to quell that rage by any means. So I just keep it going.
It can be healthy sometimes.
Righteous fury moves the boat forward just like anything else does.
I know. Well, and you just anything you find it encompassed all. Like today I was unpacking a couple things and I found our wedding guest book, and you can't even escape. Like even that is tainted by
temples everywhere.
Temple and all the kind of stuff, religious stuff that surrounds Mormonism and marriage. It's like, obviously I'm going to hold on to it, but
cringe.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to pair it with another question I had. And some of this comes from not trying to necessarily compare the two, but I did community mental health for about a decade. So I worked with a lot of people in situations they were trying to leave or trying to separate from, and particularly addiction. And I remember I got a real lesson one time from a guy who was trying to overcome his addiction, and people were telling him, you've got to separate from your drug friends. They always called him his drug friends. You can't talk to them anymore. And I was driving him home from his appointment, and he just was like, they don't realize those are my friends. They're not drug friends. They're my friends. I didn't just do drugs with them. I talked to them about what I believe. I talked to them about my life and my struggles. He's like, I can't just let them go like that. And even if I do, I'm really lonely. And so we just kind of talked about that. So I was curious, like, what are some of the practical difficulties that maybe people on the outside wouldn't know about leaving the church? And also for people like Jen and I who are completely separated from that, what are some things people in our position can do when we have friends or people we care about who are leaving? Like, how can we make it easier?
It's kind of been a journey to run into kind of some of those things. Like the number one thing that's been coming up for me lately is when I was a kid in the church, people would call up my parents and see if I could come and babysit their kids while they were on a date night or something, because they knew us through church and we were trustworthy. Like they would maybe not even personally know me, and they'd call me up and I'd go babysit them for them and everything like that. So like right now we have no childcare. We cannot do anything.
Yeah, you completely lose that community.
Yeah. So like there's things like that. If we dug hard enough, we could probably find something similar, but
yeah, that's the hard thing. And just because, you still have family depending on the ex-Mormon situation that you like find yourself in, right? Everybody's family approaches it differently. But ultimately, there's like certain aspects of ex-Mormonism, at least, that will always be the same. Like we just went to his sister's wedding like a month or two ago, and we're not allowed to participate. We're not allowed to go inside. And that's standard across the board for anybody who leaves Mormonism and has a family member that's getting married in the temple. And so it's like you can be as like accommodating as you want to be as like family who are still in versus out. And it's still like you're still going to run into those same things because they're just unmoved in those areas.
Yeah. So it's kind of when you're bringing up my drug friends are my friends. I guess you kind of get that same dynamic because there are people like in high school, I would see on a daily basis every single morning going to early morning seminary. And they were just kind of in my classes and things like that. So they would be my friends, but they were not in the same manner. Like as soon as there was even a little bit of separation, you don't ever hear from them. So like you have your Mormon friends, and when you leave, those friends just kind of go away. But even if you moved away, it was kind of the same situation.
Oh,
I don't know about as far as like people on the outside. People ask us a lot of times like what to do, like if the missionaries show up. And we always tell people, from like when you're super diehard Mormon and you're an insider, everything that the church tells you about people on the outside is that they're lost. They've lost their way. They're terrible. They need the church. And if they don't, then, we'll fix them later in the afterlife. But, they're kind of screwed, at least for now.
Yeah.
And so they have this perception about people on the outside being bad. And so when people like run into the missionaries and they like harass them or try to give them a hard time, and I'm like, you just reinforce like those things that they already believe about people on the outside. And so we always tell people to be as kind and nice as you can. Let them call their parents, let them, listen to the radio, let them watch TV, whatever. But that's kind of, we try to tell people not to reinforce like what the church tells about people on the outside.
I think that's a good lesson. I don't know. It's hard, I think, because sometimes, like, especially when you talk to people like Jen and I, it's like, okay, you've left your church. When do we get to make fun of the prophet? Like, is that insensitive? Is that still a sore spot? Like, not you guys, but like in general, like you just got out. I'll give you some time to still revere, and then we'll have fun tomorrow.
Seriously. And it's kind of like over the past year, I've been like, oh, the church is not true, but this apostle is still good. And then I read something that he said. I'm like, that guy's on the shit list now, but this guy's still good. And then something happens. You're like, that guy's on the shit list now. So everything just slowly kind of unravels.
Yeah.
I'm imagining one of those Happy Gilmore things. You're just right. People I hate. Like,
yes. Longer
Absolutely.
and longer.
Yeah. So over time, I've realized I'm like, they may be good people deep down on the inside, but the leaders of the church, like the top top dogs, they harm people. So
They know.
yeah.
Well, Jen and I have talked a lot too about one of the phrases we use is you're allowed to have good memories of bad people, and they're not bad all of the time. Otherwise, they'd probably be a hermit because no one would ever want to deal with them. Like the reason they're in your life is because somebody grew to trust them and believe in them. So yeah.
I'm very curious about your mission. I don't really know anything. I didn't even know that you couldn't call home or listen to the radio. I didn't even know that from your comment there.
Yeah,
it sounds like I don't know. I'll just let you tell your story about it because I don't know anything.
So I kind of the whole missionary experience is starting out. You apply basically, and they prayerfully review your application, and based on what God tells them, they assign you someplace in the world to go and labor as a missionary.
Sorry, do people get denied ever?
Yes.
Well, if they're not worthy.
There's a worthiness aspect to it. So if you are deemed not worthy, then you'd be denied.
That's like a
There's
secret
also
blessing, though. You're like, I didn't want to go anyway.
Yeah, thank God. I know a
you
couple
suck
people
so
that
bad
like
we
that.
don't even want your free labor. Good Lord.
You better not be. Yeah, if you're
You
gonna be paying
masturbated
us,
10 years ago.
Sucks to suck.
if you're gonna be paying to work for us, then we want to make sure that you're not spanking the monkey too. Come on.
It's we give you actually nothing.
Those
and
knuckles
you're gonna
must
like
be
it.
free from hair. They are surprisingly accommodating when it comes to disabilities and things like that. There are assignments that are more accessible. A friend of mine, he had type 1 diabetes and ended up being assigned to the Provo MTC, the Missionary Training Center. And he was an online missionary. So every day he'd go in and people would like the little chat box probably go in and type boobs or something. And like 1 in 1,000 people maybe had an earnest question, but so I was assigned to in a way that Utahns would understand it, Honduras, down in Central America. So that's the introduction. I'll let you lead from there what you would like to know.
When you say like labor, like spiritual labor or laboring for them, what was the balance of like missionary work and trying to like really actively spread the word, like the word and the church, and what other times were you just like moving heavy shit in the name of God, like for lack of better phrasing?
Man, there was a lot of that because that kind of situation was viewed as opening a door to teaching people about the Mormon gospel. So we would never shy away from an opportunity like that. Like one time we were headed up this steep hill and there was a group of people, they got a delivery. They told me it was 2 cubic meters of sand that was still damp, and they had to haul it up a little further up the because they were laying a foundation for a home, and we shoveled it and they hauled it, and they didn't even have wheelbarrows. They just had sacks, so we would shovel it into the sacks and they would haul it up and dump it out. And we were like, these people, they're gonna listen to us, it's gonna be awesome. And we went to their place a couple of times. They were super grateful, super everything like that, but they were definitely not at all interested in hearing anything that we had.
And you know darn
really
well
nice.
They were down the street and they were looking out and they're like, you think we can get those Mormons to move all this sand if we just kind of like let
really
them think?
Look like we're struggling. And
Yeah, you're in fucking
Totally.
like formal wear.
I was in a white, I ended up taking off my tie, but holy shit, my shirt this was at the very end. So I think I might've just thrown that shirt away because I was like, whatever.
They do not have you out doing the hard labor in that.
Oh, of course.
Give
Yeah.
the man some
Unless
coveralls.
it was like something, if it was something off the cuff, then there was no time to change. But if it was planned, usually I would have other clothes that I would just like regular like jeans and a shirt, which usually was a mistake because it was like 100 degrees and 90% humidity almost every single day.
Something that I admire about, I guess, the concept of a Mormon missionary is that unlike regular Christianity, it's such a hard sell. So I just can't imagine, like, well, at the time you probably were like, this makes complete total sense. But like,
Yeah. why wouldn't Joe Smith find a box in the ground and nobody can see these plates, but I swear I am translating from it.
Well, because I know that heard like a lot of people that left the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they'll be like, door knocking was you had to do so many hours a week, and they talked about how much they hated it and like they dreaded that part of the week, but at least sometimes they'd get to go with their friends, so it was kind of fun. But just like, did you enjoy it? Did you like, I don't know, learn life's lessons? Did you become close to your partner? Is any good things happen?
I think, I don't know. I learned a lot of things that aren't really applicable to the real world. It definitely helped me socially to be able to like converse with people and things like that. And it really helped me to learn how to do things that I don't want to do at all. But I don't know. It's because the whole purpose of it really is to indoctrinate the member, and I can imagine that it's kind of the same.
Yeah,
for the
I never
Jehovah's
thought about
Witnesses,
that. It's more for you than it is for the people.
Yeah, because a hardship and trials are viewed as something that'll make you stronger. So when they're teaching you that you're experiencing hardship because you're doing the right thing, it kind of just reinforces that thinking. And then baptizing converts is kind of a secondary goal of it.
What was your body count? How many did you get baptized while you were down there?
I think
Wait, how many were drunk?
one was drunk.
Okay.
Still counts.
Still counts. He was in that water.
You just can't have alcohol after we baptize.
I
I mean,
know.
if you can be
Before it's
baptized when
fine.
you're dead, you can be baptized when you're drunk, honey. Get in the
Why
water.
the hell not?
I know.
You don't want me to baptize drunk. The numbers are going to go down. I'm telling you that right now.
He washed away those previous sins and then he skipped town 2 weeks later. So
See, this is what I talk about with the bureaucratic side of it. I'm just imagine you like being on the phone and be like, look, man, I got a soul quota. If you don't want them drunk, you're going to have to cut the numbers. We're going to have to bring it down. Like,
That's how they treat it.
Yeah, my situation was a little less like that, but the guy who leads all the missionaries in an area is called the mission president. The guy above him, he was a mission president in Tijuana, Mexico, and he came and spoke to us one time. And if you didn't have a baptism on a weekend, at least one person getting baptized, he'd be at your front door on Monday and he would ream your shit over it. So it varies pretty greatly. But
It's like getting those store credit cards,
I was going to say it's almost the exact same length of time as compulsory military service in almost every country.
A nice 2 years.
Like,
Get you a nice associate's degree and
right.
it's just
Hey,
Singapore.
I saw your conversions are down. What's up with that?
Yeah.
I love Honduras so much. That place is just the culture is super rich and very diverse. So it's a really awesome place to be. But honestly, I didn't want to treat it like a vacation or anything like that. But I wasn't like the most gung-ho missionary or anything like that. I knocked my fair share of doors, and you asked how many people I baptized. I think it was 12 or 13 that I officially baptized myself. But yeah, honestly, it's just kind of hindsight. Yeah, I don't know what would have been, because I for a long time was vehemently against serving a mission, probably from about the time that I was 16 or 17 up until maybe 6 months before I left, when I was almost 21. So
They very avidly shove it down your throat if you're like right on the edge of going, or if you're like a little past due. They're like, hey, mission this, mission that.
yeah.
you at least get like a discount at BYU if you do a mission or something. Like there's gotta
Get a
be
discount if you're Mormon, but
So they
Nobody
do
wants to
let
do that.
non-Mormons in. Okay.
it's like, why would you
They
want to
do.
go?
Okay.
Yeah.
you still have to live by the rules though. Like you have to live by the same
Yeah.
rules. You have to sign a contract.
Well, I think they still pay the same amount of tuition, don't they?
I don't think so.
Are you sure? I'm not 100% positive. I don't personally know a single soul who went to BYU without
That
being
wasn't Mormon.
because
Why would you want to?
Why would you want to be the only one left out?
It's the college athletes and that one guy who decided he wanted to make things as hard on himself as possible.
Is it possible for women to be missionaries? Or like
yes.
Yeah,
my
what's their
sister-
experience? Does anybody know?
I have my sister who we went to her wedding recently. She was a missionary too. And for a long time, it was not very common because the age requirement for women was 21 and for men it was 19. So it was a lot easier to catch the boys young. because it was 19, but they lowered it so it's 18 for men and 19 for women now. So it's a
Why?
lot more
No one
common.
knows.
And
More
you-
free labor.
And you say that
More
you have to
free
pay to go?
indoctrination. Yep.
Yes.
You know
I don't know
what?
how they do it now. When I think they've changed it, but when I went, it was a flat rate. Every single missionary in the United States, at least, paid $400, and it was paid into the missionary fund and then distributed as needed, because the rent in Paris is a lot more expensive than the rent in Choluteca, Honduras.
Who's serving their mission in Paris? I just want to talk.
There are plenty of people.
Give me their names and numbers.
Shockingly, yeah. Honestly,
I saw Jordan with that
probably
move. I
know
was
them
like,
by name. You
Mormons
just go
got a
down there and be like,
hierarchy.
We're the Mormons.
There's
Oh yeah.
Well, what Brigham Young's grandson probably isn't going to fucking anywhere he doesn't want to go.
he was the quarterback for the
Probably
night.
Exactly.
I mean, I think all missionaries have to pay to go, so that's not too crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, unless they do make it accessible for people who can't afford to go, where the ward members can finance it, and then whatever isn't recovered is just paid for by the church, which, I mean, they got the money, so
You're gonna make it back on them. Don't worry.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't
Good
worry.
return on investment for the church on these things. Like,
It's just for such a like new religion, they have like so much stuff. Like they have all these rules and regulations and this bureaucracy, and like everything's taken care of. It's just seems
Yeah.
well organized. I don't know. Like
Yes.
they have something for every day of the week. Then you got your activities before, during, and after school. Oh, you want a gap year? Here, I'm gonna send you overseas.
you don't ever have to confront
Times
doubt.
two.
if
You're
you
bored?
don't
Let's
want
get
to.
married. Come on.
Like,
Yeah,
You're not having enough
and you
babies.
don't get to have fun until you get married. So
Yep.
And even then, it's
There's
like,
your
what do you got to
incentive.
look forward to? Roller skating and ice cream. I could do that now.
swig, obviously.
swig.
Yeah, we
I
gotta talk
just
about
learned
swig.
swig like a week ago,
We can talk
and
about
I'm
crumble later.
one, fascinated, two, incredibly jealous. I want one so bad.
It's a problem. It's a
We
problem.
you go
we
all
are
the time?
fizz people.
Yes, there's like
Oh.
3 different ones here. Six is swig.
Yeah,
They're not all named
It's
onomatopoeias for drinking.
Thirst.
Suck.
Oh, thirst.
Thirst
Thirst.
was a new one that popped up at
Quench.
the old place we used to live.
That's right. That's right.
This one's called Buds with a Z.
No, you're thinking
Honestly, I was
Zaxby's.
Oh God.
I was like, why are these all euphemisms? Like, nobody
wonder
in
why.
research and development is really taking a hard look through the eyes of a 14-year-old here.
You're just driving downtown going, just call it swallow. God.
We're going right up to the line.
You're
Guzzle.
so
close.
close.
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about crumble.
She has stuff to talk about, and I wanted to give her a lead in.
I'm fully ready to break this NDA. Okay, everybody. I worked at Crumble. So
She didn't know that it had connections to your state going
I
in
did not
either.
know. So here's my Crumble. I'm coming clean with my Crumble testimony. Okay. So
Crumble-mony.
it was the last regular
Crumble
job
money.
that I had, and I just wanted something easy that I could do part time. And they were like, "Oh, it's cookie shop opening," and they were like, "No experience needed.
You already had
We're
a friend that
family
worked
friendly.
there."
You know, all this crap." It wasn't true.
all,
So
all your coworkers will be 14.
Worse.
it was run. So they like encourage it to be run and operated by families. Like that's their whole like. They have like a creed. It's like
Ah.
the best cookie in the world, surrounded by your friends and family, or blah blah blah. So of course, like it was run by a family, and they all had drama with each other.
Just doesn't
I
do
heard
it.
Mormons are really into Jello, specifically. Oh, there you go.
We know Mitt likes it. He talks about it a lot.
He's got binders full of women.
was fine, folks, and they brought us whole binders full of women.
Oh my
Oh.
god.
Yeah, binders
What
full
was
of
life
Jell-O.
like when Mitt Romney was running for president?
Oh
Dude, we
man.
wanted him to win at the time.
Oh god.
That was the 2018 Senate election, right? Or was that 2019?
When he was
I
running.
was
for
in high
president?
school when he was running for president.
He ran for president in
Oh.
2012. He ran
Yeah.
for
Oh, we were.
Senate
I
in
was.
2016, I think.
I was Mitt all the way. That was my fucking. That would have been the tail end of my junior year, I think. And I remember we drove all the way down to Arapahoe High School in Colorado because he had a campaign stop in Colorado. Dude, why, but
Oh man, they were so close to that power, they could just taste it, and they were
Can
right
you
there.
imagine?
I did local political campaigning. I understand. Don't worry.
Yeah, his story is he campaigned for Bush.
I campaigned for Bush in 04.
Wow.
When I was
George
14.
W.
Oh.
your sins are forgiven.
We did a mock presidential election when I was in 6th grade, and Bush won that vote 90%.
Oh man,
90.
Oh my god.
I had no chance. I was a college reform liberal. I was gonna say it's you know, I kind of had the same experience.
You mean a college indoctrinated liberal?
And proud of it. I paid
Yeah,
a
once
lot
you
of
hear
money
his-
for that indoctrination. Thank you.
Your original degree is very much the like things that conservatives make fun of.
Yeah, I have a psychology degree with a women and gender studies sociology split minor. So I understand coming. Yeah, it was great when I went to grad school. Then I got something practical, and then I did that for 1 year before somebody decided to go and be successful doing YouTube.
I mean, that
Hell
wasn't the
yeah.
plan, but
Damn it!
And now I have a mullet and sleep till noon.
so I was doing Fundie Fridays at the time, but it wasn't like popular yet. Is I remember we had to introduce ourselves, and I was like, "I'm Jen, and I have a YouTube channel, and I have 12,000 subscribers, and blah, blah," and like they wrote me off. Big mistake.
Huge.
And I started to get a little suspicious of stuff because they're like, "Oh, they're from Utah, started by these two brothers," and I was like, "Okay, interesting. Let me keep that in mind." And then like we had the trainer come from like, and she was super bubbly, blonde, and she was just like talking her head off, and I was making her laugh, you know. And then I started eavesdropping, and she's like, "Blah blah 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 blah." Yeah, my brother's mission, and then I was like. Like you'd think my spider senses had just gone off. I was like, "Your brother did what now?"
The Geiger counter has turned into a metronome.
So then I had to start feeling it out because I was like, "Oh, they're gonna be on to me soon." Because like one of my bosses
great-great-grandpa
was
Smith.
cool, and she made some sort of like, "Oh, my family was raised Mormon" comment, and I was like, "Okay, keep writing that down, keeping that in my back pocket." And then she had left because she had tattoos, and so that was one of the things that tipped me off. And then so we're like ball and dough, and she's like, "What's your channel?" I looked for your channel. I typed in your name, and I was like, "It's I got to go to the bathroom." You know, like I wouldn't tell her the name of the channel because I knew it would be over for me. And so finally, eventually she got it out of me, and I was like, "It's Fundie Fridays." It's what? It's Fundie Fridays. Fun Friday. You know, like. So then she comes back and she's like, "Oh,
Hey,
I
can
watched
you
your
come
channel."
take out the trash with me?
My old boss.
I'm not
thought
gonna
I
say
said-
this out loud.
My old boss thought I said funny Fridays, and I was so close to not correcting her.
Yeah, just Google that. Yeah.
Oh,
So
you didn't find it? That's too bad.
one day
Oh,
she comes
bummer.
in and she's like, "Oh, I've been watching your channel." And I was like, "What video did you watch?" She's like, "Oh, I watched the FLDS one." I was like, I started sweating. Of course, like,
All right, here's my apron. I'm just gonna cut this out for everyone. I'll see you
done.
fucking later.
and she's
You
like,
come
"Oh,
in and
it
she's
was-"
like, I'm gonna need you to clock out for me, okay?
Well, she liked it. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm an ex-Mormon," but her mom still was. So I had to quit because classically Abby got super popular. But anyways, I was like, "Why don't they make a mocha cookie?" I was like, "It'd be super popular." And she's like, "Oh honey, they can't do a mocha cookie."
We don't do that.
You know, I don't know what you've been told, but
That won't be
Well,
happening here.
and I
Oh my
remember
God.
And
wasn't
they would make some, I'm sure you've seen them. They have some crazy cookies, like ones with like Cracker Jacks on them. Fucking,
that cornbread
It's
thing was
crazy.
hot fire. I will give credit. to the
but I got,
cornbread
you had to like ice them like up in a perfect, like clockwise motion. And like, you had to be
Just
a
a
certain
nice
tone of
little
pink. And like,
smear.
they would have like all these corporate rules. Like, okay, so this week we're doing a cosmic brownie cookie, but Cisco doesn't have the right sprinkles, so you need to go to Walmart, and not me, but the owner had to go and purchase like the sprinkles and like pick out all the green or whatever. And it was just, they were just miserable. And I was like, "You guys
Oh
are
my
dumb. Why did you do
God.
this?" To crack eggs, they're like, "Don't crack it on the bowl." They're like, smash them together. You know how many eggshells I got in that damn?
I was gonna say that sounds like a recipe for crunchy ass cookies.
And like they have it like, so you can
Texture.
see it behind the glass. So there's kids like, like watching me, and I'm like, man, I am high as
Damn.
shit right now.
No,
Within the regular LDS, is it like we don't talk about the FLDS, we don't acknowledge them, or like is it, I don't know, like how are they treated by the rest of the state?
very poorly, honestly.
Yeah.
I knew absolutely nothing about them growing up. All I knew was our LDS is just reformed. That's the other big sect. And then the FLDS, they're the polygamists, and that was it.
I studied them in college for a thesis paper I was doing for my family violence class. Makes a lot of sense, right? So it really kind of depends, because the FLDS are like very much outcasted, but like in our ward, we lived right next to a bunch of people that lived in the order, and like there was like a level of like, we don't really touch the order, but their barn burned down and a bunch of like our ward paid to help them build it again. And so it kind of just like depends on the sect, I feel like. But they use the FLDS as a scapegoat for everything that's problematic with the religion. They blame it on them.
I think people know this, but like they're just regular people. The FLDS, the order, like,
oh yeah,
you know, and we
Especially
goof on Mormons, but like they're just fucking people, man. Like,
yeah.
really,
Especially
no
the victims of the children and the wives and everybody. Those are just people. They're forced to live in squalor, and it's all they've ever known. So
I think a lot about the order, because a lot of their they interact with regular society all the time. They're not as closed off. So like I'm sure a lot of the people on the show escaping polygamy, like they have regular jobs and work at the gym, or like they go to college.
Yeah.
Like
I have to know more broadly though. Like, I mean, obviously you're making a statement with the t-shirts, which is kick-ass and rad. But like, what is your relationship to metal, and did it play a role in the whole thing? I have to know.
It was in a box for a really long time. I grew up, my parents, I guess they kind of formed me this way. So if they want to blame anybody, it's themselves. My mom was a headbanger. She really loves like Van Halen, all that kind of hair metal and stuff like that. So, and then my dad is really into like First Wave, Joy Division, that kind of stuff. So growing up,
we have a very similar music taste.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that.
There you go. Growing up, I listened to a lot of that stuff. I can trace it back. The very first song that I experienced that was like heavy in any sort of way. Well, the video game was Need for Speed Most Wanted, and you had tracks in there like the one particular one was Hand of Blood by Bullet for My Valentine, which is still a banger in my opinion.
Their early
Blinded
catalog
Chains,
is not appreciated.
Yeah, honestly,
Fever was a great album. Scream Aim Fire is top 5 all time for me. Like
easily. Waking the Demon is one of the few songs of them that I know how to play on the guitar. Probably not anymore, but that song rips. So there was that. There was an Avenged Sevenfold song, Blinded in Chains, and a Disturbed song. So that was kind of my introduction. And then over the years, like just kind of evolved from like there to like The Devil Wears Prada and like metalcore stuff. And then by the time I hit high school, I discovered Chelsea Grin, which is a local band here in Utah.
Really? We were just talking
from Salt Lake.
Yeah, we just saw an episode where you had the shirt on.
Yeah. Not a huge fan after they got Tom Barber. Tom Barber's departure of Lorna Shore improved Lorna Shore and ruined Chelsea Grin for me, in my opinion. But then, my parents absolutely hated it. Like for a long time, I kept it under wraps. Like nobody listened to my iPod. I always made sure my iTunes library was closed and everything like that. So yeah, I hid it for a long time. And eventually my parents found out and they were like, oh, you'll go on your mission. You won't care. And then my mom was like absolutely devastated when 2 weeks off of my mission, I'm listening to my normal stuff in the car. So
Devastated.
Absolutely devastated. Anyway, you asked me about my faves.
Yes, I'm very curious.
This week has been a little bit hard because my all-time favorite band, the Black Dahlia Murder, just lost their lead singer, which was really sad. Yeah, and I had seen them before I even really started listening to them, and was in hopes of seeing them again now that I like them, but pandemic and scheduling outside of the state, Utah just sucks for
concert
tours.
Scene here just
it blows
hard.
So they're one of my all-time favorites. I've got my Disentomb shirt, is an Australian brutal death band. Another one of my super favorites is Full of Hell, which is like a grindcore noise one. Who else have I been listening to?
See, I told you he was going to be more in the core side of things than I'm old thrash butt rock. Like I won't even pretend. like I cut my teeth on like S&M and honestly most of Metallica's catalog. So I knew you were going to have a more sophisticated metal taste than I did, but I couldn't help but ask.
Oh, no worries. I still appreciate Metallica and Slayer and things of that nature. A lot of people get really super iffy about like genres and things. Metalheads can just be total assholes.
Yeah.
They gotta have something to gatekeep.
Seriously, yeah. And it's the usually the core shit where I'm like, dude, I don't care. I'll listen to new black metal. I'll listen to just straight death metal. I'll listen to deathcore and metalcore. I don't care, honestly.
You're not pretentious.
It's not as big of a deal to me because I like it all, honestly, in a lot of senses.
As long as it sounds like the band wants me dead, then I will listen to it.
Exactly. As long as there's that one riff that just gets you, that primal urge within you to just smash shit, then it's all good. I remember my mom telling me, because they still are big Nine Inch Nails fans, but they stopped my mom was like, I really loved Nine Inch Nails until they came out with Closer. I was like,
They were just very
okay,
wholesome.
but Mom, you went to a show last year and there's no way they didn't play that song.
I have a question about some of the like Mormon nicknames. So like Molly Mo, Jack Mo, I know Never Mo and Prog Mo, but are there other ones?
Peter Priesthood is the man's version of Molly Mormon.
Wow, so it's like it's an insult, kind of.
It's
Depending on the person, maybe.
You would have to be you would have to be a Peter Priesthood in order for that to not be
For that to be a
derogatory.
compliment.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy on its own.
Yeah.
What else?
Molly Mormon, Never
Jack
Mormon,
Mo,
I guess
Never
if you
Mo,
Jack
Prog
Mo.
Mo.
Progressive Mormons.
I think that
Do you
covers,
say
like, the big
in
ones.
because James had a question about this, but you kind of answered it in one video. Is Jack Mo like a cultural Mormon? Like you don't really believe it, but you're kind of
There's a lot of people. It's kind of like a stereotype, mostly here in Utah, of people who will get drunk and be like, don't you ever talk shit about my church. I fucking love Joseph Smith. And it's just kind of weird. Like they'll never follow any of the precepts or anything like that, but they will
still consider
vehemently defend the
this is
church.
wild.
See, because I was wondering, because like most of the Catholics I know are just cultural, like Christmas and Easter Catholics. And I'm like, I'm sure, and when you get your whole own state, like there are some folks who are born into it, I'm sure, that just do not care. And they'll keep up the pretenses and they'll do what they're supposed to. They'll do the bare minimum, but they're like, here's your tithe. Now leave me alone. I'm going to go drink coffee and sin.
I think you're missing out on a thing here. I think maybe people would do this to stay close with their family. I figure you probably have a similar situation. Like, I'm not going to start a fight about Brigham Young at Thanksgiving.
Because the whole Christmas and Easter thing isn't really common in Mormonism. Because if you stop going, then everybody's like, what are you doing?
What's your favorite pet? Like I've always said, like I've never met anybody who likes eating meat on Friday more than a lapsed Catholic. Like what is your favorite petty sin that you can just do now and be like, haha, screw you, Brigham?
Oh, fucking drinking coffee. I love coffee so much. I was gonna make something before, but I had a lot this morning, and then I tried a Starbucks cold brew. I'm sorry, I know they're union busting and it's illegal, but I had to try it just to see how it was. That's my favorite one by it. Far and away.
What about, is it coffee for you too, Jordan? I have to know.
McKay is really saddened by this, but I do not like coffee. And no matter what I do, I cannot like it.
It took me a long time. I was anti-coffee for the first 30 years of my life. I understand.
See, there's still hope for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Jordan has a very strong aversion to anything that's even remotely burnt. So I feel like that's what
bitterness
keeps her from it. Yeah.
Yes. I feel like as far as things that I do now, kind of in spite of the church type thing, is just wearing things that I wasn't allowed to wear before. Wearing tank tops sounds like really fucking stupid, but it was and getting tattoos. I have 5 or 6 now.
See, this is what I don't think about. The man, I like having coffee. The woman, I like being able to not be ashamed of my body. That part's nice.
That's fair.
Not hating myself, that's good. I enjoy that.
Sorry about this sausage. Can you figure out where you're going.
That sausage. Yeah, just just band-aid over that terrible body image due to purity culture with just a few tattoos.
Yep.
It's all good.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever been confronted with your privilege in real time? That's what happened to me just now.
Well, not just that, you
Just,
have
like,
long
hits
hair,
you.
McKay.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's like
That that is one of the
thing.
things I totally forgot. It's just
Yeah. your
been on my
hair.
head so long. It is, yeah, I'm to the point where I'm like,
Oh.
I was never in a situation where I was allowed to. Every job I've worked at, regardless of if it was Mormon related or not, has not allowed me to grow my hair to the length that I wanted to. So it's my free spirit.
I
now.
saw your pictures from when you and I linked up on Instagram, and I don't even know you in real life. I was deeply uncomfortable with short-haired you.
Yeah, right.
That was
Like,
some
who is-
uncanny valley Mandela. This is not correct.
who's this Peter Priesthood over here?
What in the name of Jordan Peele's Up am I
Serious.
looking at here, or us?
What
Jordan
the-
Peele's Up. That's a great movie.
It had a much different ending.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those
seriously.
pictures.
Or my absolutely rail thin, like this kid is in danger by how skinny he is right when I got home from my
Malnourished,
mission.
yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of
I can't
figured
relate
though
to
you
that.
just spent 2 years like in hard labor and sweating. So
Yes.
Dude, I ate like a fucking, oh my God, I ate so much all the time.
okay,
Yeah.
this was another one of my questions, and I wrote it just like this in my phone, but I'm just gonna ask: Joseph or Brigham? Who do we blame?
Brigham for a lot. Brigham's blamed for a lot.
That was
the
more
worst of
definitive
it.
than I expected.
I
I
was
was
not expecting
expecting
that.
Jordan's response. I was not expecting Brigham, and let me tell you why.
Bring me his head on a stake.
Yeah.
Brigham fucking sucks, but I hold a lot of anger for Joe because he's the one that started it all.
Yeah. Also,
Old Joe.
the worst of the worst predator behavior.
Yes.
In my
Yes.
opinion.
And Brigham was like, oh yeah, green light, let's go. Joe did it, so why not?
It almost feels like Joe was just a runaway like lunatic who didn't know he was starting something, and Brigham was like, I know how to use this to take over the freaking planet.
Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly how I think it is.
Joseph was like, dude, I am running low on cigars. What can I do to get some money? Fuck it, I'll start a religion. And
Yeah.
then Brigham was like, the breweries, I'm the governor now, bitch. And what are you gonna do about it? Yeah.
Mm.
Joseph
Yeah.
Smith was the first presidential candidate to ever be assassinated in American history.
Really?
Yep.
Fun fact. Not that it wasn't deserved, but
Congrats.
Funny how he became an abolitionist suddenly when he had to run for president.
so weird.
Interesting.
They're cursed by God, but we still love them, even though they're so terrible.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Hey, we can thank Mormons for Mr. Brightside, and for that reason, they're allowed to live.
White folks anthem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They say we have no culture.
I
We
know.
have that.
I thought they
We
were
have
from
colors.
England for so long.
This is a random one because I was like half paying attention. Is there some sort of naked ceremony you guys are doing
Used
in
to
these
be.
temples?
They
Used
said they
to,
don't do
not
that
anymore.
anymore in the video.
Specifically.
Specifically, there is the washing and anointing ceremony. I think our video about it is entitled the initiatory or the washing and anointing.
They didn't stop doing that though till what? The 90s?
They didn't stop so originally when it was introduced, there in the temple was a bathtub, and they would wash your naked body and do this little blessing for it, and then anoint your body with oil and do the same kind of little blessing thing. And then it evolved at some point into you would wear a shield,
A poncho.
which is a poncho with slits in the side. It's just open on the
Pockets.
sides.
Oh wait, no.
Yep. And then they would just anoint and wash with droplets the particular parts of your body that they pronounced the blessing on at that time. Eventually, when I did that,
You have the poncho.
I had the poncho on, but I got to wear my magic garmies underneath, which was still pretty fucking weird. And then by the time that Jordan only went in like a year and a half max after me. And by that time, none of that. It was just totally symbolic. You don't even have to wear the poncho or anything.
They just do water and oil now, and they do it on your head.
Yeah.
So.
Because they would that's when they authorize you to wear the garment. So originally they would wash you, anoint you, and then give you the garment to clothe you. That's why you were naked to start. But
I see the line of thought. Like,
yeah, I totally do too. And then as it became like, because it was secret, nobody would talk about it, and it didn't really matter. But once people kind of were like leaving and they're like, this is fucking weird, why are we allowing them to do this, they kind of like eased up on it.
Now it's you go in wearing the garmies, and then once you have the initiatory done, they tell you that your garmies are activated. So it's like a
magic undies activate.
yes, like a cell phone. You put the SIM card in them.
Is that what? In.
So what's the order of like ceremonies that you have to do to, well, I guess that's kind of vague. So you get baptized at 8, and then you have to do all these like programs and things, and so you get your priesthood, but then you have to get what, endowed before you can do that, or
no, you already have the priesthood. There's 2 different kinds of priesthood, right?
They're levels.
Yeah, there's the lesser priesthood known as the Aaronic priesthood, and the greater priesthood, which is known as the Melchizedek priesthood. Once you're, and only males are allowed to do this, and we always talk about there's only it's a binary in the Mormon church. You at 11 get ordained to the Aaronic priest, or 12 get ordained to the Aaronic priesthood, the office of deacon. So they're split into tiers
because it couldn't be any less confusing.
So at 12 you're ordained a deacon, and you're allowed to pass the sacrament, the bread and the water. And then when you're 14, you're allowed to prepare the sacrament, which means your family is tasked with bringing bread if it's your week to do that. And then you put the cups.
You do raisin bread? That's like 2 birds, 1 stone.
Dude, right? Yeah.
Not my fault. I wanted to put some flavor in.
But
I know they're lame. They don't even do.
They don't even do wine
or
anything.
No, it's just water.
Yeah. And then at 16, you are a priest in the Aaronic priesthood. You do the blessing of the sacrament. You're allowed to baptize people, but not confirm them. Once you turn 18, you're eligible, as long as you are deemed worthy, to receive the Melchizedek priesthood. You're ordained an elder. So that's why missionaries are called elder, because that's their office in the Melchizedek priesthood.
I didn't know that.
And at that point, you are then allowed, once you're ordained an elder in the Melchizedek priesthood, if you are worthy to enter the temple and you're going on a mission or getting married, then you're able to go into the temple and do the little rituals.
You do all the rituals.
And what do the girls get, Jordan?
What do you mean? What do the girls get?
What do the girls get in the time
Swift
that I
kick
just
in the
explained?
ass.
I was gonna say, a lot of self-shame and potentially an eating disorder. I don't know.
Yeah, shame.
Yep.
Self-hatred. Yeah, that's about it. That's it.
No, this is too personal. Tell me to fuck off. But so when you were still in it and you had all your priesthoods and your recommends and all that good whatnot, did you like take it super seriously, Jordan? Were you like respectful of like, I should listen to McKay, or I don't know. I even know how to describe it. I've never been in a patriarchal relationship. I don't know how that would even work. Like, what does that look like?
It was really hard for me because it's not like this anymore, but when I went through the temple, all the covenants that you make are through your husband. So everything that I made was I covenanted unto McKay, who then covenanted unto God. So I couldn't even like have my own individual covenants. And I've always been a feminist, if you will. So this was always really challenging for me, and I hated going to the temple.
Yeah.
And I feel like we never really had like a patriarchal relationship.
No, I would say
probably a name only, I would assume.
Yeah.
Just because of the implications of the religion, but
I feel like we've always been
equal. Yeah, we've always been really.
You don't seem like you have it in you to McKay to be the brand of asshole that's needed.
I say this a lot in in evangelical circles too, anywhere where they're talking about submission of women, they'll try to be like, well, if you pick a good guy, then you don't have to worry about any of that going sour. So I assume that they're probably like, yeah, you have to do everything through your husband, but you're gonna love him, so it'll be fine.
Yeah,
It's
Is
fine.
that what they
yeah.
fed you? Like,
You don't have to worry about abuse or whatever. You just have to get lucky.
Yeah, basically.
Well, and I think the other side of that and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going on the toxic masculinity we were all raised in. But on the other side, when you're like mandating things for her and everything's being run through you, I'm sure there's like that imposter syndrome. You're like, why is everything running through me? I don't have it any more figured out than she does. I have to pretend that's what I have to do. I'm panicking. Am I sweating? Am I not sweating?
yeah,
I
and
don't
they do
know.
this to kids. Like
Yes.
you guys
Yeah.
are so young when they're like, okay, you need to get married and have 6 babies in 3 years.
Yeah, I fucking hated that because when I was on my mission, I was in leadership, which is there is kind of like oh, here you go, afterthought leadership position for the women, but it's primarily led by men because they have the priesthood. And when I was in leadership positions, I mean, the sister missionaries would call me and they'd be like, Elder, we just don't feel good today and we can't go out and proselytize. I was like, I honestly wouldn't care if you didn't even tell me. I wouldn't give a shit. It feels weird for me that you have to come and tell me that you feel sick and you can't go. Like, I don't give a shit.
You know we're
So-
not paying you, right? Like,
I know, right?
like-
Be free. Just yeah. Or they'd be like, oh, it's because it's kind of that awkward thing. I'm like, I don't give a shit if you're on your period.
yeah.
Dude, just stay home. It doesn't matter. What
I know
am
what it
gonna
is. I
say?
passed biology. Just go home.
Fucking
No.
that is actually, that kind of knowledge is a luxury because
Here.
Yeah. Where do you all see like the church as it is now, like 10 years from now or 50 years from now? Like, are we in the last days of the Mormon church, or do you see them resurging and getting more popular than ever?
Are
And,
you
and
asking them to prophesy right now?
You're damn right I am.
I'm just as qualified as Joseph Smith ever was.
Because like every other
Honestly-
prophecy, it's just an opinion.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Honestly. For me, I'm not sure about 50 years down the road. Certainly within 100 years, totally gone. I do not think they have the legs at this point. Official numbers have plateaued at the very least. The actual data is not talked about at all. So they say there's like almost 17 million members on the records, but
Probably half that.
you can at least cut that in half.
They're notorious for leaving people on the mailing list far longer than they wanted to be there.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. So within 10 years, I think it will still have gone down. Within at least 50, substantially decreased in activity and everything like that. And then within 100 years, I think they're totally gone.
I mean, who knows
think
if
it
we're
will-
humans are even going to be on this planet in 100 years? So
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
Seriously.
what is going to outlast humankind?
Not Mormons. I don't know. I feel like it's going to depend on whether they'll shift their social stance on issues, because that's what all the progressive Mormons want them to do. Is if they can be accepting of gay people, then people will stay. And I don't see that happening. But if it does, I think it would sustain them.
it kind of reminds me of like the Democratic Party, where people make the jokes like it's the same bombs, they just have like a pride flag on it. So like that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, sure, gay Mormons, that would be great, but like that's not the problem. Is
Yeah.
And you're going to get
It's
some
bigger
self-hating
than
gay
that.
recruits at that point who've just desperately wanted to be a part of it. It's going to pay short-term dividends, but it ain't going to do nothing
Yeah.
in the long run.
I'm totally in that same camp. Like they allegedly have a direct connection to God, and we're almost 200 years in and he hasn't said shit about accepting gay people. I would not hold my breath.
Yeah, no.
Or even allowing women to do anything more than the bare minimum.
They'll
when it
let
comes
gay
to,
people in before they let women do
I
anything.
know,
so.
seriously.
hey, they turned around on black people in the 70s, so you know,
It's
just
true.
fingers
It's
crossed.
I know. Definitely wasn't anything to do with pressure about other schools not playing BYU.
You know.
Didn't have anything to do with a temple opening in Sao Paulo or a other religious university having a Supreme Court case surrounding interracial couples, all within the same 5-year span. None of God just was like, I think it's time.
think it's time.
God is
We're gonna
allowed to
yassify
consider
the Mormon
social
church.
fractures.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? I've had enough of being a bigot. It's time to just let everybody have the priesthood and go to the temple.
I'm reformed.
Boots the temple down.
Do you get like a special card, right? Do you have like, do you have
Yeah.
it?
We still have ours.
It's probably still packed away. We used to keep them on the table just in case we ever needed to pull them out. And
yeah, we still have them.
Yep, you get a little card. They've diversified.
No, but they give you a little pouchy thing.
A little plastic sleeve. Yeah. If you ever take it out of the sleeve, the ink transfers onto that, so you never get it lined back up just perfectly again.
Yeah. They have barcodes on it now, so if we tried to get in, we would be denied. So
you'd think they just have like an
like military
make
clearance.
it nice and handy.
No, they're talking about doing that actually.
No, McKay, I was kidding.
I wish. I fucking wish. I think they're waiting because they're moving away. When I was a kid, you would give your you'd put your tithing in an envelope and give it to the bishop, like a check or cash.
Mm-hmm.
And since I've gotten home from my mission, they've moved toward just paying it on the website, which is fucking great. But you have to remember that probably a very large portion of the Mormon population is 60 plus.
Yeah.
So them migrating over, I think they're slowly like testing it out right now, just having it on your phone, and it'd be a lot easier that way. They're basically like ageist, like fuck these old people, we're being held back.
Which those are 90% of the people that are in the temple at any given time is older peoples.
Well, it was very lovely talking to you.
This was incredible.
I'll show you off my shirt. Don't get your garmies in a bunch. But I just want to say you can get it any color, because if I can get something in purple, I always get it in purple.
Yeah.
I'm glad I added it in purple. I figured that one had to have every color in it. That was legible.
But yes, we're big fans of your channel. Everybody go check out Jordan and McKay.
Yes.
We love them very, very much. And love you guys. Thank you for hanging out. And it was nice to meet you.
Awesome to
We
meet
love
you.
So fun.
too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anytime you want to do it.